the last time I saw him in hospital, I knew he was going to die. I just knew something inside me told me. That could have been the moment for me to have said, I love you and I respect you, the very thing that he felt he didn't have. I didn't, and I walked away. And I like you, I don't like regret, actually. I almost never say I regret anything. It's the one thing I do say I regret, because that one was down to me, and I do really regret that.
According to the polls, our next guest could become our next Prime Minister. He's Chris's former five-a-side footy buddy turned barrister.
Excuse me. 11 aside.
11 aside footy buddy turned barrister turned leader of the Labour Party, and this is quite a big week for him. So let's give him a cheer, because he's here, and he's Keir Starmer.
All right, control round of applause, please. And this round of applause will be welcome to anybody who wants to join us in the next few days. If anybody from the other major parties comes to be interviewed, they will get the same round of applause. Good morning, Keir.
Good morning. It was 11 aside. I think it was 6 o'clock on a Sunday night, if I remember rightly.
Absolutely
up near Brent Cross.
100% with Jack. It's £3 in, wasn't it?
It was £3 in. Those were the days.
We did it for a couple of years, week in, week out, and I absolutely loved it. Right, so in the style of Jerry Rafferty, okay, Keir, here we go. You've been hated by the left, hated by the right, and here you are, stuck in the middle with me. So this morning, you might have some idea of how Gareth Southgate feels. Speak to that. Where do you watch the football? What empathy do you have for Gareth? You've been in a very similar situation as far as public opinion is concerned. Obviously, it's not going to stop anytime soon.
No, look, Gareth will be really pleased this morning. I mean, but what a game. It was looking very, very close, because it was down. I was just looking at the clock thinking there was almost not enough time now left. If you remember, I'm pretty sure that extra time went up at 5 minutes, and then the commentator said it was 6 minutes, and then the screen showed another minute. And it was down in that last 2 minutes that we got it over. So it was very, very tight.
Okay, where'd you watch it? Who'd you watch it with?
I watched it with really good friends at home.
Yep.
Because it was my son's 16th birthday yesterday.
Wow.
Now, so it was a really, really brilliant day for us.
Okay.
And so it was really fantastic.
In the
end, yeah. It was.
Now, as a lifelong Arsenal fan, and you're a proper football fan, you go and watch
season ticket holder.
Season ticket holder. You go there with your mates. The mates you always watch the game. You have a discussion a bit. But that must be interesting nowadays. Does your security flank you? Will this continue if something happens? In your favour on Thursday?
Well, up until now, we've managed to keep it as it is, which is in the stands, with our season tickets, same seats we've had for best part of 20 years. And it is fantastic. So I go with really close friends. One of them, Colin, his son goes, and my son go with them. And the pleasure of walking down from the pub after some banter, seeing my son and his son in front of us as we go down and then go into the stands is brilliant. And of course, you know all the people around you in the stands. You don't know the second name. You don't know where they live. Usually don't know what they do for a living, but you've shared experiences. You've sort of had the lows and the highs together. It's absolutely fantastic.
When we play football every week, as we genuinely did, it's so bizarre, isn't it? It's bizarre that we did this.
People don't believe me. I say, yes, we did, 6 o'clock.
And it wasn't like a one-off. It was like a good 2 or 3 years. I was a season ticket holder at Spurs. I didn't know you were a season ticket holder at Arsenal at the time.
I wasn't at Arsenal at the time because until we moved from Highbury, it was really hard to get season tickets. So we were all on the waiting list.
Right.
And then when we moved to the Emirates, there were, 30,000 tickets released because the stadium was so much bigger. That's when we got them. So we've only had season tickets since the Emirates. I used to have to pay, on a one-off basis to get into Highbury.
I know you're a massive fan of Mikel Arteta. You've said to him, because I've heard you say it on various podcasts and things, that he gets the best out of players, better than they truly believe they possibly think they can be, not only individually, but especially as a team, right? And it's sort of the opposite of what Gareth's been accused of over the last few days and weeks. What are the 3 things that you like about Mikel Arteta that you would say to Gareth before Saturday if you had the chance?
I think the first thing is this business of getting the most out of players. If you look at the Arsenal squad, every player is playing better than you might have expected last year. Take someone like Odegaard, who's technically brilliant. First time I saw him, I thought, fantastic player. Making him captain, making him play in the way he does, he's lifted Odegaard, and Odegaard lifts the other players.
Right.
Declan Rice has been absolutely transformational.
So it's the opposite of what's going on with the England team.
It is the opposite, and that takes time pulling that team
we haven't got
together.
Time. What can we do?
Well, we need to pull that out, and we need to get them. And he's got great players. Look at Bellingham last night. They are great players. They're just not gelling.
What would Arteta do with those players in the next 5 days?
Get the best out, make them play together. Declan Rice, I'd push a little bit further up, give him a bit more freedom.
Yeah.
But look, Southgate gets what I get as Labour Party leader, which is lots of noises off. Everybody in the stands, everybody on the telly could play a better game or put a different and better squad on than the manager.
If something happens on Thursday in your favour, that's times 1,000.
Yeah, but the other thing about football, never forget, we've all had this. Confidence spins like that in 100%. 5 or 10 minutes. You have a good game and suddenly the whole team, we've all done it. You know, you're 2-0 up, you think it's fine, the other team get a goal, suddenly everything changes.
But what would you say to them?
I would say just forget where you are in the competition, forget all the noises off. I have to do this, just go into a sort of tunnel.
Yeah.
Know what you're trying to achieve and just don't listen.
Okay, they say that winners are grinners, but grinners are winners. And this is scientifically been proven that if you're smiling and you're happy, your brain doesn't know if you're happy because you're smiling or if you're smiling because you're happy. So if you're not happy and you smile, you get happy anyway. How about a bit of that, a bit of levity with the team?
I think that would be good. I think it'd be good. I think it's really good in this campaign as well, because we've been going now for 5 going on 6 weeks, and we are campaigning with a smile and with a spring in our step. But that is really important.
Yeah, but again, you talk about confidence. That's confidence breeds confidence breeds confidence breeds confidence.
Yeah, it is important.
And you're more relaxed, aren't you?
And you're more relaxed. Yeah. And the team do need. If you look at the expressions on the England players yesterday, before they scored the goal, it was all expressions of anxiety, looking at each other, tight. Not criticising each other, but anxious rather than we're going to do this.
All right,
that's what needs to change.
Let's let football and politics meet on the golden bridge of harmony. All right, are you ready for this? Okay, so Tony Adams or Tony Benn?
Oh, Tony Adams. Tony Adams, yeah.
Over Tony Benn.
Yeah, right. But I wouldn't want him picking me up after we'd won the cup. Do you remember when he did that?
Yeah.
And
he dropped, who was it?
I can't remember.
Steve Morrow.
Steve Morrow.
Well done on the Morrow.
He dropped him and broke his shoulder bone.
Did you go and meet Tony Benn? Is it true that at Tony Benn's house you got to sit in the other Keir, the Keir that you were named after chair? Yeah,
he had a chair that was owned by Keir Hardie in his kitchen.
Keir Hardie responsible for?
Founding Labour Party and giving my mum and dad a name for their first son, yes. But no, I went to interview Tony Benn and sat in his kitchen, and he said, that's Keir Hardie's chair, you need to sit in that. Right. So that's when I did it.
Oh, wow. Now, your mum and dad were quite... Well, they were Labour supporters through and through. Your dad especially. Your dad was a toolmaker. They called you Keir after the founder of the Labour Party, but beyond that, weren't that active.
No.
But you were, and you joined the Labour Party when you were 16. Now you've talked about that before, but I've never heard you say why you joined the Labour Party. Obviously because you want to support Labour, but what happened? What drove you to that? What moved you to signing up? Because it wasn't your dad or your mum, and it wasn't people around you.
No, it was what I felt, and to some extent.
What does that mean?
Well, my dad worked in a factory, and he felt very disrespected working in a factory because he felt that as soon as he said to anyone, "I work in a factory," they looked down on him. Now, whether he was right or wrong, he felt it really strongly, and it actually forced him to withdraw. He hated going for social events, etc., and he stopped doing it. My mum was very, very ill, very dependent on the NHS, so I had this strong sense of respect at work in a sort of factory environment. I'd never been to a workplace other than a factory till I left to go to university. Very strong grounding there. And then my mum sort of so reliant on the NHS. So Labour seemed the obvious sort of values-based party that I wanted to be part of.
But you chose to join up.
I chose to join the East Surrey Young Socialists.
When was that? What happened? What was the day thing? I'm going to join. I'm going to do something about this.
It was as soon as I could, as soon as I hit the threshold.
Okay.
I have to admit, there are only, I think, 4 of us in the East Surrey Young Socialists. So the moment you join, you become a post holder. I think I was secretary within a week because it was a very, very small but perfectly formed group of people.
So from there, law student, university degree, lawyer, DPP. I'm very obviously we don't have much time, and then you decide after a very successful legal career to become an MP or try to become an MP at the age of 52.
Yes.
All right. And you suspect that your wife thought that wasn't such a great idea, but nowhere near as bad an idea as trying to become Labour leader in 2019. And you say that you think she probably would have preferred you not to do that, although because she loves you, she wouldn't stop you from doing it. Just speak to that a bit.
Yeah, so Vic, when I finished as a lawyer, this was 2014, I came out of being the chief prosecutor, done that for 5 years, running criminal prosecutions across England and Wales with 7,000 staff. So I come out of that big job, and I had in my mind that if we're really going to change things for the better, I needed to step into politics. Vic, my wife, was sort of looking at adverts for other lawyer jobs, which are a bit more secure and better paid, and not the hassle and exposure that you get from politics. Now, she, we didn't fall out about it, but she clearly at that stage would have preferred that I'd stayed out of this because, politics is great on so many levels, but there's a lot of aspects to it that are pretty unattractive.
Yeah,
so she was really being, I think, probably protective of me, of the family. But look, at that stage, neither she or I knew where this was going to land. I was hoping that we'd win in 2015. And that at some stage I might become, I don't know, Attorney General. I didn't have aspiration at that stage to be Labour leader.
So we are where we are now. It's Monday. 3 steps to go to the election.
Yeah.
And whatever happens is going to happen. All the polls say, I can say this, I'm allowed to say it's all the polls say that, you are probably going to win, probably by a huge majority. You may not win at all, of course, still. However, if you are looking at the stats, and they're pretty nailed on, but of course there's no safe bet in politics or as in life. Are you making plans now? Is Vic making plans to move house? How does that work?
Well, the first thing is, Thursday is the voting day, and we've got to earn every vote until 10 o'clock on Thursday. And, polls don't predict the future. And across the country, hundreds of constituencies where it'll come down to the wire, and change only happens if you vote for it, and that is very important. So anybody who doesn't go out and positively vote Labour on Thursday could wake up on Friday morning with 5 more years of what we got, and that is a pretty sobering thought.
Of course they can vote anyway.
We are trying to get the balance right and answer your question about not getting ahead of ourselves, but also planning for the future. And
so will you be a family that moves in?
We will, if we get over the line, move in. I mean, we've got 2 young kids. So our boy's just 16, as I say. Our girl's 13 and a half. That is actually the hardest bit of all of this, because they're at ages that are quite impacted by this. If they were under 5, I don't think it would have much an effect on them. If they were 20 years old, they'd probably have enough of their own lives.
Yeah.
It's very impactful. We don't name them in public. We don't do photo shoots because we want to protect them. But that is hard.
And they've also got their opinions now more than ever because they're teenagers.
Certainly do.
Really interesting.
Certainly do.
Tell everybody about when you won an award, arrived home, and your son was watching something on the telly, and you're like, look what I've just won.
So I won, I think it was Politician of the Year, a Spectator Award. So it's in a nice sort of casing, this great award. And it's very unusual for a Labour politician to win this. So I go home smiling, of course. My son is there at home with the television on, with his feet up on the sofa. So I said to him, have a look at this. What do you think? And he doesn't look at me, he just takes it in that way that teenagers do, looks at it, reads it, passes it back again without really looking at me, and says, how did you blag that then? And carries on watching the television.
And that's where I'm very healthy.
Or my daughter, who said, what are you doing tonight? I said, I'm doing a fundraising dinner. She said, what's that? I said, it's a dinner where somebody speaks and other people pay to hear them speak. Next question, almost slow motion. Who's speaking? I am. Why would anyone pay to hear you speak? So they keep me very, very grounded.
Good. And you've already alluded to the fact that Vic, your wife, has a touch of the Michelle Obamas about it. The reluctant, this is not good for one's sanity. It's not good for the family unit. You have said that, time doesn't do refunds, and you want to be there first and foremost as father. This is the wrong job for that. So where's the strategy there?
Well, we've had a strategy in place, and we'll try and keep to it, which is to carve out really protected time for the kids. So on a Friday, I've been doing this for years, I will not do a work-related thing after 6 o'clock, pretty well come what
Regardless.
may. Yeah. Now, there are few exceptions, but that's what we do. My son goes kickboxing, so I often take him there. And my daughter goes swimming and cheerleading now. So I've been to see her in cheerleading competitions.
So you're going to ring fence that time?
So we're going to and I want to. One, because I'm a dad and I love them. They're my pride and joy. and I don't want to lose that time. 2, I don't believe in the theory that you're a better decision maker if you don't allow yourself the space to be a dad and have fun for your kids. Actually, it helps me. It takes me away from the pressure. It relaxes me. And I think actually, not only is it what I want to do as a dad, it is better. This politics, some people think if you fill your diary 24/7 and don't do anything else, that makes you a much better decision maker. I don't agree with that. I think you've got to make space.
Got it.
So we do it. Now, it's going to be hard, but we will, and I'll try and get to the Arsenal as well.
Well, here's
as
the
often
thing.
as possible.
Depending on what happens on Thursday, you might be more or likely to be in a better place to get a ticket to go and watch England-Switzerland on Saturday. Would you go if you had to represent the nation?
If I could go, I would, but I'm not going to. If we get over,
is that on the cards?
No,
has that been talked about?
We are not planning beyond Thursday.
Come on,
but
you must be.
But
if becoming Prime Minister means you can blag a last-minute ticket for England, Switzerland, being a massive football fan.
I think Saturday might be a bit tricky, but it will be.
Is there a chance you could be at that game?
I don't think there realistically is, but let's see.
Right.
They're going to go further than that. I think they'll beat Switzerland.
Switzerland are a good team.
I know
Seriously,
they are. I know.
He's been saying this the whole week.
Yeah, well,
You've got to be careful. Switzerland are great, man.
Yeah, they're all right, but
They thrashed Italy on Saturday.
they really did.
Thrashed
that was an incredible. We had
demolition. It was a demolition time.
Yeah, it was incredible to see that. And we'd just had Elton John come out in support of Labour, and then we were absolutely smiling at that. It was a fantastic, thrilling moment. And then looked up at the screen and saw that Italy had just lost that game 2-0, which I couldn't
You talked
believe.
about being a dad there, Keir Starmer. I know that you had a complicated relationship with your father, and you say that out of all the things you wish you'd done that you didn't do, I wouldn't use the word regret you have in the past. I'm not a fan of the word. It's an unuseful word. You said that when you went to see him, the final time you went to see him and he wasn't well, you knew that he was in an end-of-life care situation and you left the hospital.
Yeah.
You didn't go back to say something to him that you now realise that you wanted to, but you didn't in the moment. So, A, what was it for people who don't know? B, what's the point in beating yourself up about it if you didn't feel it in the moment? C, did you not say it because of something that you said he never hugged you once. You wanted to tell him that you loved him. You wanted to tell him that you respected him, which is the one thing that you think he didn't get out of life. Just speak to that a moment.
Yeah, he was a complicated man. He was utterly devoted to my mum, who was very, very ill and with Still's disease, and then complicated steroids overlay of that. She lost her leg and in the end couldn't speak or really do anything. And he totally looked after her all the time. So all his emotional energy went there, which meant it was more distant with us children, particularly between him and me. And we didn't talk. He never really expressed pride in what I did. He certainly didn't say, I love you, and it was just distant, and it became distant. There was a gap, a massive gap, and I knew it was there. He knew it was there, and then he became ill, and it was end of life care. And I don't know why. The last time I saw him in hospital, I knew he was going to die. I just knew something inside me told me, and that could have been the moment for me to have said, I love you and I respect you, the very thing that he felt he didn't have all his life. And I almost remember having a fight with myself as I was in the hospital as to whether to say it or not, and I didn't, and I walked away. And I like you, I don't like regret, actually. I almost never say I regret anything because there's not much point going around saying I regret this, I regret that. It's the one thing I do say I regret, because that one was down to me. Because of the way he was emotionally, he was never going to be the one to close that gap. It was always too difficult for him. But I had realised what the gap was. I'd sort of analysed in my own mind what it was about, and I could have done it, and I didn't. And I knew he was going to die. It was a really weird night because actually it was another five-a-side gig that I play with. We have a night out. It was a December night. We have a night out just before Christmas. And I went from the hospital to meet all these guys. These are really close friends. And I sat there with them sort of nursing a pint, and then I just put the drink down and walked out. I went home. and sat, and I just knew that night he was going to pass, and he did, and I do really regret that.
Respectfully and gently, may I ask you why you didn't go back? Because it did occur to you, didn't it?
It did.
What stopped you, do you
I
think?
think it was emotionally difficult for him and for me. It was although it may have seemed like a small thing, maybe 60 seconds, 90 seconds, it was a lifetime of emotional angst tied up that maybe it was just too big a thing to do.
Yeah.
It was. Speaking about it now, it looks as if you could have just gone back and done it. That would have been to have stripped away decades of a distant relationship and tried to do it in one go. I do regret it, but I think that's why. I think I probably in myself thought it's too big a gap to do now in this way.
Got it. Thanks for talking about that. You've got to go because you're busy. You're going to get on a train.
I think I've got to get a train to the other end of the country.
Train. All right. Before you go, one final question. Let's stay on safe ground. Thierry Henry or Dennis Bergkamp?
Oh, tricky, but Thierry Henry is such a great player. But Dennis Bergkamp, both are brilliant. But Thierry Henry had this when he came onto the ball, he sort of almost lifted his body, almost hovering, and you knew something was going to happen. It was so brilliant to watch.
Right.
But then Dennis Bergkamp, look, a sort of 50-yard ball, and he would take it down with sort of one touch and spin, and just fantastic player.
Yeah, well, Barack Obama, didn't he? He only watched sport, didn't he, during his election campaigns? He only allowed sports channels on his battle bus. Is that going to be helpful in the next few days?
No, Angie's got control of the battle bus, so Angie's behind the wheel of the battle bus going around the country.
Right.
I'm just doing guest appearances.
All right, well, whatever happens on Thursday, see you on the other side.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Sir Keir Starmer, live on Virgin Radio.